Hey gang, this is Andy over at the Facebook Live TV show. How are you today? I am here live, finally back home after being on the road for the last week or so in Tucson and then Nashville, Tennessee. A lot of flying, which is it's good for my frequent flyer miles. Wow, that's easy for you to say. Yeah, just I got to stay home for a little while. I think next week I don't have anything as far as travel, which is good. And possibly the next week. I think there's maybe 2 weeks here where I'm not going anywhere. Then I'm off again, Minnesota, and then Nebraska again, and then Fresno, which really doesn't count. And so here, what I want to talk about, as you can see in the title, is about your attractive character. And I've been reading a little bit about that, a little bit more in this .com secret that Russell Brunson put together. I'm going to go ahead and put the link again. I know that you guys could be possibly sick of me putting this in there, but I think it's worth it because if you haven't got it yet, you need to get this book. It's free. All you have to do is pay for shipping, and if you don't like it, you just tell him you don't like it, and he will give you your money back. But the stuff in there has been fantastic, and we're going to talk about one of the chapters, which is your attractive character, and I'm going to tell you why that's important, because I think once I went through the trials of nearly going bankrupt and foreclosing on the house and all that kind of stuff, and then barely being able to save it, that something had to change, and so I had to figure out what was I not doing in my business in regard to marketing that I needed to do better. And one of those things are some of those things that I'm going to be talking about in creating your attractive character. And that doesn't mean that you need to change who you are. It just means you need to bring out some of the character in your past, some of the character that you kind of hold back because you get a little bit nervous or afraid to show that character. And then in some aspects, you need to define what it is you're going to focus on. And so we're going to talk about that stuff. And I think that in some of the people that I've seen doing Facebook Lives and some of the people in our communities, that whether you're in the Publish and Profit community or the Tony Robbins community and some of the other ones that we are all part of, at least those of you that I know watch this particular program, is that you need to really define that for yourself, because I see some people kind of changing from every so often, and it can throw off your audience that is actually paying attention to what it is you're doing. And so I think at some point you need to step back and really begin to define who that is. And when that happened with my dog training business, it really began to change. And like I said, now I've been able to license off the pet dog business. I have other people doing it. It continues on. They still have benefited from the business that I created over the last 30 years. And the customers didn't stop because I stopped. The character that I created, my attractive character that I created for the company and myself, has been able to be able to carry on regardless of who the lead trainers are, because the system remains the same, because it comes from what I created and what I developed, and continues to be maintained. And I think the trainers, in many aspects, although they have their own attractive character to themselves, follow what it was that I started as the founder of the company. So, and that's the idea, right? The idea is that you're gonna create whatever it is, your company, and you're gonna create your products or your services, and then hopefully at some point you can step back while other people run it, and it basically begins to run itself, and you make money while you sleep, you make money while you're on vacation, and it's easier for you to take off and do other stuff. So that's the goal. So if you define it and have it down as really part of your business, then it'll be easier to speak to your perfect customer. It'll be easier to speak on stage and not seem different when you're speaking on stage as opposed to when you're speaking live on Facebook, or when you're writing a book, or when you're creating a Facebook post, or Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is that you're using, LinkedIn, and everything is the same, has brand identification, because now you're speaking from your attractive character. All right, so you have to decide what is your attractive character, and just really kind of sit down, and I suggest you write it out. And I did that back in the dog training business about it's got to be about 6 years now, after I got back from a conference in San Diego, because that's what they told me to do. I was on a hot seat, and they said, so what is your story? What is your backstory? Which is going to be one of the elements that we're going to talk about. And when I told them my story, they said, dude, that's it. That's what you have to focus on. And so when you're developing your attractive character, you have to understand that there are 4 elements of the attractive character. We're going to go through each one of those. The 4 that I decided on are really based on Russell Brunson's book, .com Secrets, the one I just gave you the link to. And what chapter is that? It doesn't say right offhand. Let me see if I can find it. So when you get the book, you'll find it as you're getting into section 2. And it's secret number 6. All right. So section 2, secret number 6 is the attractive character. And so I'm going to use the 4 that he listed because it's really the ones I've learned along the way anyway. And so I'm not only am I taking a little bit from his book, but I'm taking also from my experience and exactly what I did about 6 years ago, well before this book was written. So what is the first one? The first one is the one I just mentioned, and that is your backstory. What is your story about how it is you got to where you are to develop your product, to develop your success secrets, to develop your consultation business? Really having that backstory down and knowing what that is, and then being able to speak on it and talk about it in a way that's authentic and people can actually feel that they're speaking from a place that they can respect and understand and feel is really important. So in regard to my backstory with my dog training business, it had much to do about my time with my police dog at Anaheim Police Department. And then the additional backstory is that he saved my life, and that's why I decided to name the company after him. And then go off of that and get a little bit deeper into how the dog saved my life and what it is I learned from that, and about how I decided to change the training methods that we were using at Anaheim Police Department, which are very harsh methods with cattle prods and sharpened pinch collars and that kind of stuff. And then transferred our training, or changed the training to be more of a reward-based training, finding out that that actually was a better way to train because dogs worked out of motivation as opposed out of fear. And so very quickly, I just gave you that backstory. So that's the backstory of the dog training business. It can actually, there's actually more detailed stuff I go into, but that's the backstory. So what is your backstory? So that's element number 1. So if you have a backstory, you need to, really focus on that backstory, write out that backstory, and give as much information as you possibly can, even if it feels uncomfortable. In the business side of things, as I help other people go from zero to hero, the backstory is that I had a great dog training business that began to actually make a lot of money, where I started a new business in a security company, invested a lot of money in patrol cars and bicycles, and went from 5 employees to 500 employees, got Comic-Con as a contract, got Stagecoach and what's it called? The other one? Stagecoach and, there's another one that's along it. What is the other one called? Stagecoach? Coachella. Coachella got those contracts they were huge contracts. The problem is we paid out more than we got paid, right? So the hot contract was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $600,000, but we paid out in $750,000, right? So it sounds great, right? You're making $500,000 on one project, which is a week-long project, and yet you lose $150,000, right? That's not the way things are supposed to go. So the backstory is how I nearly lost everything. My house actually got the sign hung on it that said they were foreclosing, and then how you save that. You get back to work, right? You begin to learn how to market yourself differently. You write a #1 best-selling book. You get on television. You do a show with Cesar Millan. You get on National Geographic, and things begin to change. The country of Bahrain hires us to train their bomb dogs for their country, and you get out of debt, right? And so that's the zero to hero story, and that's the backstory to that. So I've just given you 2 examples, one for a dog training business and one for a consulting business, both having backstories that have worked very well. And so creating that backstory is really important. The next thing is the element is to be able to speak in parables, and obviously the one place you go really quickly is the Bible. The Bible obviously speaks in a lot of parables, and the reason they do that is because it helps people understand what it is you're trying to teach. And I have done that for most of my time. Not only as a dog trainer, but as a police officer, and parables are really helpful for people to understand a process that might be difficult to understand unless you're able to give them an example of how that parable works, and using a story instead of just simply saying, you know what, you need to do this, you need to change your ways, right? You need to give them an example of how changing your ways will do something. Or in the relationship to dog training, we talk about love and respect is our training method, and that every relationship needs to have love and respect. If you have children, if you have a marriage, if you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, boss, and employee, that relationship is important, and in particular, a loving and respectful relationship, in the sense that in the boss employee, there is a sense of, wow, man, I really love working here. I love that you're my boss, or I love that you're my employee, and showing them the respect that they deserve, that they make good decisions, and then when you're disciplining them, you're doing it from a place of respect, and that is important. And of course, the same thing with marriage. So that those parables that you can create around that type of training and relationship to dogs is really one that people can connect to, and I've found that is very effective in helping people understand our training methods with their dog. So coming up with some really good parables in your whatever system it is that you're using for coaching or teaching or leading somebody is going to be huge. And you can do it even if you're selling a product, right? And helping people understand why your product is beneficial, and have a parable that goes along with that product, and why it's important for people to understand that the product is going to help them. And then using a parable to be able to help them understand that is going to be super important. All right. Element number 3. Where'd it go? There it is. Share your character flaws. Oh, and that is my specialty. I have no problem. As what happened when we first started. What did I do? I mumbled a word or misspoke, and just being comfortable with it. What are you going to do, right? And the faster you can get comfortable with your flaws, your character flaws that Russell points out in his book. Did I say Russell? See, are important to be able to, and I think that's the basis for my Facebook Live TV show, for Create, Launch, and Profit. When I'm going through the systems and the equipment that I use and the third-party applications, there is not one moment of my demonstrating something that I don't click on the wrong button, or drop something, or plug it into the wrong port that needs to be plugged into, and just show that you're not the only one. The viewer I'm speaking to, you're not the only one that goes through these things. It's somebody that's been doing it as much as I have been doing it now since Facebook Live started. Like I said, I started doing Facebook Lives 2 days after Facebook Live went live on Facebook. So as much as I've been doing these, again, still click on the wrong things on occasion, still things go wrong, the internet becomes disconnected, I lose the stream. Sometimes it's really bad that my voice doesn't match with the movement of my mouth, and all those things, and just accept it. So accept your character flaws, share them so that people can understand that they're not the only ones that make mistakes or these things happen to. All right, so super important. So I hope you're writing these down. Backstory, speak in parables, share your character flaws, and then the fourth is harness the power of polarity. And that is I think that might have been the number 2 or 3 most important thing that I learned in San Diego 5 or 6 years ago when I was brought on stage onto that hot seat, is that I was trying to sell to everybody by being a nice guy to everybody, and being, and just not, being firm in my beliefs, and kind of being a little wishy-washy from time to time. I wasn't completely wishy-washy, but there are things that I could have been just more like, no, forget about it. This is the way you do it. Whoever doesn't do that really is making a huge mistake, and really begin to not worry too much about the fringe people that didn't like anything I was saying. And you can be caught up in not wanting to do a Facebook Live because you're afraid you're going to put yourself out there. And if you really speak your mind, somebody's going to be mad. Well, that is actually good. Right? It is really good to sometimes make people feel uncomfortable. And now when I do Facebook Live, and I always go back to the dog training because that's the thing I've done the most, right? And so I can go back to just about everything we're going to talk about here and how I've applied it to dog training. And one of those things is finally on my Facebook Lives, in my training videos that I have on YouTube and Vimeo, is that I say, this is the way. And if you do it any other way, I think you're making a big mistake. And saying that gentle leaders, which is a type of collar that wraps around a dog's muzzle, I used to go, they're not the best, I wouldn't use them. But now saying, they're actually dangerous for dogs and it's not a training tool. And so do you see what I'm doing there? It goes from, it's okay, and if you want to use it, that's not that big of a deal, to then saying, no, it is a horrible tool, and do not use that on your dog because it can harm your dog when not used properly. It's very easy to harm your dog just by accident with a gentle leader, and it really doesn't teach or train your dog, right? And so that is polarity. I'm actually, there's a number of people that use gentle leaders, and so I polarized myself from those people because I say you're wrong, and having a firm stance. I use a pinch collar on occasion, or I use an electronic collar. Who am I polarizing from? Many people who think electronic collars are evil. Many people who think pinch collars are evil. But used in the right circumstances, they can be actually two of the most humane tools you could actually use with certain dogs in certain circumstances. But you have to be with a professional that knows how to use them and teaches you how to do them correctly. And again, I used to dance around the pinch collar. Well, and not really commit. But harnessing the power of polarity actually is best. Who are some of the most polarized people that have the largest audiences on the planet? Howard Stern, making whatever is $50 million a year, has a huge audience that went with him to Sirius XM radio. I happen to be a fan, but is he or is he not very polarizing in his area of expertise? Limbaugh, I can't think of his first name for some reason. He's another one, right? If you are not Republican, you're wrong. You're crazy. And if you're not following the Republican stance, then you are a moron, right? And that is that's his stance, and he's polarized. Has a huge audience, makes tons of money, and we can go on and on, right? And so polarizing is not a bad thing to do. Being very firm in your belief and sticking with it, and not giving into the feeling that, I'm just going to try to please everybody. You're going to please no one if you're trying to please everybody. It goes the same way. If you try to sell to everybody, you're going to sell to no one. You need to narrow on your audience, who your perfect customer is, who your audience is, in the sense that you've identified them as one person, and really narrow that down and be strong in your beliefs and what it is you're going to speak to and what it is you're going to say. So, all right, those are the 4 elements that you absolutely need to be aware of. I'll go through them one more time in case you're writing them down. But backstory, speak in parables, share your character flaws, and harness the power. All right, so now you need to identify your attractive character and who it is that what the identity that you're going to be in your Facebook Live. So let's say that now, based that you're watching this, the Facebook Live TV show, and you want to create your own Facebook Live TV show, you're going to create an identity of who you are in your show. What is it that you're going to be doing? One of those things is you can be a leader, right? You can be a leader in your niche, and you want everybody to follow you. Hey, follow me. I'm going to take you down this path, and everything I do, you just do it. If you do what I tell you to do, and you do it well, and you stay focused, you're going to have success in whatever you're doing, or you're going to achieve whatever it is you want, or you're going to experience the things that I'm telling you to experience. So you can be a leader in a lot of ways. I think in many ways at Falco Canine Academy, that is kind of my role at Falco Canine, is that I lead them in a way to having a loving and respectful relationship to their dog. And the way that I speak sometimes is from a place in leadership. If you have ever seen me teach on in the field where we have a group training, I'm actually fairly firm and strong and tell people just to do it. And I don't help them. I lead them. Right. And I show them what they're supposed to do, but I don't necessarily do it for them. And so it's a strong position that if you're going to be a leader, that you need to be ready to be in that position. That a position of leadership is one that requires strength. And if you're wishy-washy or weak or are not polarizing, then your leadership's going to fail. It's not going to be as strong. So your leadership needs to come from a position of strength, and you have to be willing to get in front of people and say, no, I'm not going to help you. I don't care how much you're struggling. I'm not going to grab that leash. You need to make your dog do A, or you need to make your dog do B. If you are coaching somebody, no, I need you to do this for yourself. I've showed you how to do it. I'm taking you down the path, and you need to follow me in each one of my footsteps, and you need to know how to do that. My steps may be taking you in a place that feels very uncomfortable. My steps may take you in a place that is very difficult for you to maneuver, but you need to follow those steps, and you lead them through example. You need to lead them through strength, and give them the strength. All right. So if that's your identity, that's a good one to have. It works. The next type of identity you have the adventurer or crusader. Adventurer is one way we're going to go find out about this stuff together, and we're going to go explore. I have an idea for a show. I've already created the Facebook page. It's called Orange County Awesome, where I want to take people around Orange County and on an adventure and show them all the great things that are available to them here in Orange County. And take them to places they might not have ever heard of, even some places they've heard of, but maybe there's something about that particular place that is more interesting, or maybe they didn't know, and be the adventurer crusader and say, hey, come on this adventure with me. We're going to go discover some new stuff. And so on that show, it's not a position of leadership. My identity in that show is not going to be a leader. It's going to be more of the adventurer and crusader, and kind of looking forward to getting that off the ground. And I've been journaling about some stuff, some things I want to make sure and focus on and that kind of thing. But you can see how those two things are different. So my dog training business and even my Zero to Hero is more from a leadership position. The other show where we're going to go be looking at stuff is going to be of adventure and crusader, where I'm going to be taking them on a sightseeing tour, or what are some of the other examples? I can't think of what they are. When you go to the jungle, a safari, right? And let's go find out, and like looking through the bushes and that kind of stuff. It's going to be fun. Come with me and follow me, and let's go look. And what did you see when you saw that? And actually interviewing people. What do you think of this food, or what do you think of this whatever it is that they're doing at that particular place? What do you think about the rooms at this hotel, or what have you? And now ask people and find out what it is that they're experiencing while they're there, asking them what it smells like, what it tastes like, and really helping people to take them, whether they're driving in their car or in their living room, or somewhere just watching on their phone, that they can actually be there and hear the sounds and actually get described the things that what it tastes like, and how hot it may be or how cold it may be, and being able to experience that through an adventurer's way of presenting it to people. The other identity is, did I even bring that up? I didn't. Adventurer Crusader. Not that you actually need to see it. It's just cool to be able to do it. All right. The next one, identity, is the reporter or evangelist. And that's what I do with the Experts News Network, which that I also host that show with my friend Everett O'Keefe when we go on location to Publish and Profit, or what else is over there that we do? We've done other stuff for Mixiv and Yen, You Everywhere Now, and report on what's happening and what's going on at the event. And that's really a fun one, because it really allows us to kind of just sit there and just describe what it is that we're seeing and report on what's happening and interview the experts that are there. We've been able to interview Mike Filsame. Here in my office, I was able to interview Travis from Kajabi, Will Irish, who's a Facebook ads expert, and a whole number of other people. I really like that role, that identity as being a reporter or evangelist. It's fun, and it's just really interesting. I learn a lot from interviewing the people, and that takes a little bit more time. I've gotten better, I think, in interviewing people, and I do another show with my daughter, and we've missed a couple days because I've been out of town, but it's called the Unauthorized Game of Thrones after show, and I host it, but yet I interview them. They're way more knowledgeable in the show than I am, and it's just kind of fun to be able to interview them and keep the discussion going. And it's taken a while for me to learn how to do that effectively, but I believe I'm getting better at it, and it's really a fun thing you do. You're going to feel uncomfortable at the beginning. The first time I walked up to Pam Hendrickson, and there was another one. Who's the guy who wrote The Secret? Can't think of his name. But anyway, I walked up to him and asked, for an interview, and both just agreed. And it's uncomfortable thinking that, what if they say no? But it's like asking a girl for a dance, right? What if she says no? She says no, and you ask the next girl to dance. But it's kind of nerve-wracking to walk up to somebody, especially, Pam Hendrickson, who worked directly with Tony Robbins, and surely has other people that, you know, that she would probably rather have interviewing her than me, to go up there and say, hey, Pam, would you mind, you know, standing here with me and doing a quick interview? And when she says yes, it's just such a relief. And then being not so nervous that I couldn't ask the questions, right? Because you have to make sure and listen. I think that's important. I've seen many interviewers who don't listen to what it is the person's saying. They're so busy looking at the next question they're going to ask and thinking about the next question that they didn't hear what it is they said. And now it seems just not authentic. You know, it's just about asking those questions and not really engaging in a conversation. I'm going to go back to Howard Stern for a moment, and that's because he may be one of the best interviewers on the planet. If you want to learn how to interview people, watch his interviews with Paul McCartney, or listen to his interviews with Paul McCartney, or you know, he's interviewed Lady Gaga and Madonna, and some people that start off a little bit like standing back a little bit, and you can tell that they don't necessarily feel comfortable with Howard in the beginning, but by the end of the interview, they're talking almost like they are just driving in a car somewhere or sitting on the couch at home, just having a conversation, and there's not a million people listening. And it's because of the way that Howard interviews and the questions that he asks. And so regardless of how you feel about him, if you just listen to a couple of his more recent interviews, you will see, and his interviews last about an hour and a half. To 2 hours. There's no commercials between the interviews. It just goes on and on. There's so many people that you see on television interview for maybe 5 minutes, and it's over. To be able to interview for an hour and a half without stopping for a commercial, to get people so comfortable that they begin to reveal things about themselves that they would probably not reveal in anything else, is a skill. And he has the skill to do that. So that's another identity. And then the last identity that I have listed here is called the reluctant hero, where you go, you know what, I'm so fortunate to have been, you know, to be here. And, you know, and then you begin to tell your story, or you begin to share some of the things, and you do it from a place of just being, reluctantly, you know, I've been put in this spot, and I'm, you know, God has allowed me to be here, and all those kinds of things. That is probably not any of my identity, but there's many people who do it well. I think Russell Brunson does that well. I think that he is a little bit of a reluctant hero in the way that he does it. Yeah, I went through a lot of stuff. I was a wrestler, and here I am. I don't know how I got here, but I got here. And let me show you how, right? And he does it in a way that it's just a little bit, you know, oh gosh, you know, I'm glad you guys like what I'm giving you, but he's a hard worker. The guy doesn't stop. You know, he's always doing something. He's got podcasts, and he's got live videos, and he's got recorded videos, and he's got funnels that he's launching left and right. I can't open up my Facebook and not see a Russell Brunson Facebook ad on my Facebook thing. And it's always new. It's always different. I know that he probably doesn't do it himself. He has a team that does it, but he's got to be the inspiration for doing something like that. But Reluctant Hero, I think, works for him. But I have at least done the other ones that I've brought up: the leader, the adventurer and crusader, the reporter, evangelist, and then, like I said, there's the reluctant hero. So write those down and begin to develop who it is that you're going to be. On one show, you're gonna decide on you know, each one of those elements and how you're going to use, or those those elements and how you're going to use them, what your backstory is going to be, what parables you're going to use, what character flaws that you're going to feel comfortable releasing and letting go of. And maybe as time goes on, you'll begin to feel comfortable doing that more and more. And then be comfortable with the power of polarizing whatever it is you're speaking about, and deciding that this is where I'm going to be, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to say. And I'm not, you know, I'm not going to necessarily change. There's nothing wrong with changing as time goes on, but you should be as firm as you possibly can on certain subjects that you really hold dear to your heart, and try not to change from that. Again, you know, we should all be open to change, and every so often we can have our mind changed, but just at least for a period of time, just stick to your guns on what it is you're speaking about. And then now choose one identity that you're going to have for your voice as you begin your broadcast, and then carry on. You want to continue to be that throughout the life of your broadcast. All right. So that's what I have for you for your attractive character. I want to make sure a reluctant, you know, if you want to be that reluctant hero, then there you go. I just gave it to you, and you have my permission to use it. All right. Make sure and click on both those links. The link is that I gave you is the mini course, which is a 4 videos over 4 days mini course. If you have not done it yet, please opt into that. It's free. At the end, there is an offer for one of my products. Again, not obligated to buy anything, but those 4 videos are absolutely free. If you do those 4 things, you'll be on your way to creating a fairly healthy business. There's a little bit more after that, but those 4 things will at least get you started in the right place. And then click and make sure you get this book, .com Secret by Russell Brunson. I think it's well worth it. Like I said, because it's free. The only thing you're paying for is shipping and handling, and you'll get it back if you actually don't like the book. All right. So that's it for me. I will see you at the next one. Take care. Bye.